everybody. I'm M.E Thomas, and I'm here again with Ted. Ted, I'm going to start the same way I always start. What is it like to be you?
Well, I'd say I'll answer that in the present tense, if that makes sense. At the moment, it's very strangely enough, it's very responsible. One thing that I'm working on, that I've been working on for a long time, is things like managing finances and money, paying debts on time. Uh, that's there's been less infractions on that part. Um, I've rearranged the furniture in my flat. Got rid of old things that I don't need. Overall, in a day-to-day interpersonal experience, it's very honestly, I'd say it's normal for the most part. Um, I am finding lately though I'm getting more exhausted by people,
Mm,
like even more than usual. It's just it's getting more. It's really more becoming an act now than anything.
yeah.
I'm more irritated lately as well. I just don't really talk to anyone really. That's the way I've been lately. But yeah, I'd say that's a good way of putting it. Just focusing more on myself, trying to be more responsible with things. But yeah, really getting fed up with people lately.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't doubt that. Well, I suspect, let's say, I suspect that it's connected, that those two things are connected, being more responsible and then being less patient with people.
Yeah, because I mean, really, I've only got any room for any. I've only got room for any thought that's to do with myself, if that makes sense. I've only
Mm,
got really, really to think about myself. To think about other people's wants and needs is it takes a whole other level of energy for me. I've really got to. The only person I really have like that in my life is my son.
yeah.
But yeah, other than that, it's very much I keep it minimal now, very much an act. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I remember going through periods like that. So in law school, my first year of law school, I basically like I would maybe go out and see people I don't know, once a month, once every other month. It was super rare. And I did that again for like a year or two when I was first a law professor. Like the only place I would go is this restaurant that serves fried chicken, Chick-fil-A. I'd go there
yeah.
like every
Oh,
other
I don't.
day.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
And I just had, it was like a very simple, almost like monastic life where it was like, okay, I wake up and I do my things. And I really appreciate those times because, I accomplished a lot. Like the grades I got in law school, I still benefit from those grades. Like the things that I did as part of my law career, I was definitely trying to lay a foundation for like a better, nicer life. And it's interesting that it's like you can't do both. You can't kind of both invest so much in yourself and still try to be around people where they're so draining of your energy and attention, because they require, to me, it felt like they require so much masking and just like my attention to my own self, not just to them but to my own self, and making sure that I'm not acting weird, I'm not offending them or
Yeah, mm, yeah. And I always the one I get told quite a lot is that I look angry.
mm,
They go, "Are you annoyed with me, or are you angry, or am I boring you?" And it's just it's like you're not. You might even generally be saying something interesting, but I'm just not reacting the same way maybe a normal person would.
yeah.
But or like changing the pitch in my voice or things like that. Um, but yeah, it's just. I mean, again, I'm just more focusing on the me. Um, I mean, I know I said that last time we were on, we talked about dating a little bit, and my sort of what's the word? My goals in that realm of life, if you will. But I'm sort of gotten to the point where I'm pretty much given up on that, at least for the time being. It's just not a. I realised that there's no like no girls really my age. Um, I'm in my early 20s. Just for reference, someone watched this and they said to me that they thought that was in my like mid to late 30s, and no, I'm not. I'm in my early 20s, but nobody my age or no girls my age or people really, they don't want to date with the intent to get married or you know what I mean. It's a very non-traditional kind of idea around dating with people my age. So I'm sort of stuck on my own
Mhm.
pretty much. Um, so I think that's probably part of the reason why I'm a little bit more irritable because I'm just getting I'm very bored of being single, but at the same time, it's like I can't like I have no mechanism of trust with anyone for anything really. I cannot put trust in other people
Hmm.
for things. And then it's like, well, how do you have a relationship with anyone if there's no trust and there's no, you can't reciprocate. But
Do you
yeah,
think that there's like do you think that you've ever trusted somebody? Like did you ever learn to trust anybody?
yeah. There was one. There was one. I don't really, I don't really like to talk about it anymore. But
Mm,
there was one person who I trusted, and I mean, in hindsight, I wish I hadn't.
yeah.
But yeah, so and it's like ever since that, like I never, it wasn't that I couldn't before I met her. It's not that I couldn't trust anyone. It's just that I really hadn't yet.
Oh,
But it's like after that, and just there is a traumatic experience behind that, or even multiple. But yeah, no, there's just no trust now in me whatsoever. I get, I get paranoid extremely easily.
mm,
I mean, I've been looking at statistics like things like I think is it 48.2% or something or other. I think this might have been last year, so maybe it's changed. But not too long ago, I was looking at the statistics for cheating in marriages,
mm,
and in the UK, it's something like nearly 50%
wow.
of married women cheat. Yeah, so it's like, well, as a guy, you look at those stats and you go, well, what's the point? There's a 50-50 chance that you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That it's just going to absolutely end at least by that.
Mm,
But it's just off-putting. Really, it is more or less better. Well, it's not really better for yourself to be on your own in one way, but it sort of is in another.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Those are grim statistics. That's really that's
Yeah.
really harsh. Especially if you do you think that you are kind of unusual amongst young men, men your age too, that you want to date to get married?
Yeah, I mean, hookup culture is the thing nowadays, isn't it? With there's a endless plethora of dating apps, and again, as the other day, this was recent. I think on Tinder, I'm sure it's Tinder. Tinder gets 1.8 billion swipes
Mm,
per day around the world,
wow.
and yeah, and only 1.26% of those end up being a match.
Mm,
So they're just they're a con. I mean, I've never used any anyway, but they're just an absolute con. And it's just all it very much almost is like there's no hope. So what's the point? I might sort of just focus on getting myself more prioritized or as much as I can.
yeah.
But
Well,
yeah,
I think too, I mean the some wisdom to this, I think that I've heard people say this and I've experienced it a little bit in my own life where like when you are taking time for your own self, like if you spend the time kind of improving your own life, then that's kind of like when you will see, somebody kind of pop into your life. It's like once you spend the time kind of working on you, then you will attract other people that are also kind of high quality working on them.
that's well, that's been. I mean, again, I've been doing this whole self improvement thing for well over a year now, and I've had girls come up to me and exchange numbers, but it's just never panned out into anything.
Yeah.
And it's like after the fourth or fifth time, it just starts to get, oh well, this is just becoming more of a not a chore, but well, yeah, kind of a chore. It's just becoming more of an expected annoyance
Mm.
than it is you know what I mean. The first or second time it happens, you can go, oh, unlucky. But then now it's just getting to a point where it's ridiculous. Like I remember last year, or no, it was well last year. A girl that I met on the bus to work had asked me for my number. Um, Never turned up to the date,
Excuse me.
um, which not a problem. Didn't turn up to the date, which at first I was mildly
She
irritated
asked you
at.
for the number, but didn't turn up to the
Yeah, yeah,
date.
exactly. This is what I mean. Exactly.
Mm.
I'd get it if I'd asked her and then she just politely accepted and then gone, oh, I'm not. But to make the first move and then just not turn up
Mm.
is, I mean, who knows why? But about 8 or 9 months later, so this year, she found me on social media and tried to reach out to me again.
Uh-huh.
And I had to ask her, I said, who is this? And she said, oh, don't you remember we met so and so? And I just blocked her just instantly. I thought,
Good for
but
you.
I thought the absolute, the nerve, who, what do you, so that's what I'm dealing with. That's what I'm dealing with. And,
That is a lot of nerve. Man, I wonder, have you ever thought about because my girlfriend is also psychopathic. Do you think it's because these people are like normal and they act in like ways that are like hard for you to kind of predict, maybe, like why didn't she show up, like it's kind of just what you said, she asked for your number, like what was going through her head, and you'd want somebody to maybe who just acts more like you. Have you ever thought about dating another
yeah,
psychopath?
I've heard mixed. I've been because I'm in like different groups on social media for cluster B personality disorders,
Mm,
psychopathy, and I've asked this to someone. I said, look, how do you make this work? And some people have said that it's that it can work between a neurotypical and a neurodivergent, like how a magnet works, an opposite in a minus equals attract. But then
mm,
there's other times where it's like you and your girlfriend, where you're both the same, so you both work. So it's just a whole mind boggle. It could, to me, it's like it could be both, but which one, who it's going to be and when, and only God knows.
yeah.
But at the moment, I'm just throwing in the towel. I'm fed up, frankly. I'm just I really do not have a long fuse for anything whatsoever. So I've
Uh-huh.
just thought, what, I'm fed up now. I'm done. I'm just throwing in the towel. If it happens by some force of nature, then it'll happen. But I'm done trying because I'm sick to the back teeth, basically.
Mm.
And but I've noticed like now I'll because I was watching this morning your conversation with Cindy, chocolate or tizzy.
Yeah, chocolate autism, yeah.
Yeah, and
Now that
she
you've
was
said
saying
Cindy, that Cindy's not right. I'll come
that
up
it
with it.
sounds like that. But
Yeah,
anyway,
Cassie.
apologies
Yeah,
to chocolate or tizzy if she's watching.
yeah.
But yeah, beautiful. I was surprised when she said her age. Said she's 31, and
Mm.
she looks about my age. I thought, wow, like. But anyway, that's just a side note.
Uh-huh.
But she was describing about like looking at other couples in the street and thinking like what makes that work, and other things like getting angry. And I have that where like I always do it on the bus. I always see couples when I'm on the bus, never when I'm walking, but when I'm on the bus to somewhere, I always see couples like holding hands.
Mm.
And like I'll look at them and I'll wonder, what I mean, it's sort of like I know what it is, but I've still got that that curiosity about it, and but I don't get angry anymore. I just sort of I just go this world, mate. I just go this world, and then I just turn around. It's just more like a disgusted despair, really.
Uh,
I think it's a really, I'm throwing words out there, but there's definitely like an element of slight disgust, but it's very, very minimal and very, very soft and brief. It's a
hmm
very soft and brief disgust with like a little, maybe a little zest of despair. But, but yeah, and like I see, I trim my nails, I work out, I moisturize. I'm always dressed smartly every day, no exceptions. I always wear everyday cologne. I make the effort to be presentable. I'm a great conversationalist. I like to, I've been told at least.
yes.
And dare I say it, because I was talking to a guy in my church about a month ago, and he was asking me. He said, "Oh, how you doing?" I said, "Oh, well." So I'm just starting to get a bit fed up of being single, but other than that, I'm good. And he said, "Oh," he said, "Don't worry about it. You're a really handsome guy, so don't worry about it." And I was like, "Thanks, but I really, when you get stood up, you don't feel it, do you?" So, but it's good enough that I can look back on these things, but it's like when I got stood up, it didn't it didn't bother me for more than a minute. It
hmm
was like, oh well, I'll just go back to, or I'll just make this new plan. I think I went out that night. I think I went to a bar. I think I went to what you call a bar, like a pub,
hmm
and I can't
A
really
public
remember.
house.
Yeah, yeah, a public house. Yeah, yeah. But I'm sure I did go out, or I went for a walk in the park or something. I went out anyway, and then I just sort of forgot about it. And but yeah, that's where I'm at. It's just getting. I'm throwing in the towel with dating at the minute because it's just not. I don't know what it is. It's just not. It's not working. So
I love that phrase, this world, this world. I'm going to start using that. See
yeah,
something where I'm just like just a little hint of despair, as you say, but just kind of like discuss like this world.
yeah. Or it can be. I have it a lot as well. Where I have that kind of like thought. But like if I see or hear someone like do or say something, I'll have like the same like thought, and I'll go, you, you know.
I like that one too. You.
Yeah. But the one thing, because I watched our last conversation back,
hmm
and you said about how I have this aesthetic for love, and I am still listening. Like it's weird because I'm still listening to like all my love songs that I listen to, and like I listen to other music as well. But and you said that I have a certain like an aesthetic for love,
Mm,
if you remember, and
yeah.
the more I thought about it, I thought love's not the right word. I thought love's not the right word. I thought Emmy's onto something. I thought she's definitely got something, but it's just not. It's not love. And then it came to me just one day, like a light bulb moment, and it's an aesthetic for romance. It's the
Mm.
things surrounding the love, like
hmm
like I would love. I mean, I fantasize in my head. I mean, I'm very much a daydreamer, fantasist. Are you like that?
I mean, a little bit about certain things I can be. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like topic related. It's
hmm
topic related to you. I would daydream about any old thing. I couldn't imagine being like that. But yeah, when it comes to romance, I am just very much like a fantasizer,
mm
like more or less from the moment that I wake up and then it's like scattered throughout the day. And I just always imagine like nice things. Like one of the recent ones was I woke up and I looked at because I had my bedside unit to the left of my bed, and I reached over just to get my phone to see what time I'd woken up because I wouldn't set an alarm. So I'll just
mm
wake up at whatever time, that it's natural. And for some reason I imagined I imagined like my girlfriend's pair of glasses on the bedside table.
hmm
And I just imagined to myself, I went, do you know what? I thought if I had a girlfriend, like if I woke up with my girlfriend next to me today, and she had glasses, I'd get up and clean the glasses, even if they were already clean. But I'd
mm
want to do that because, like, my girlfriend, it's weird because I'd have to say, like, my girlfriend has to have, like, the cleanest glasses. And I'd be able to, like, when she woke up, I'd go, look, I'd clean your glasses for you. And, like, things like that, you know what I mean?
mm.
But, um, but yeah, it's very much just and anything. Well, I'd say anything can set it off, but it's always like me. It's like an internal trigger.
mm.
It'll just come in my head, and I'll just always fantasize about these like little things that I'll do. Whenever I eventually do find the one, that's like the main thing I'm missing. I've got I've got big aspirations for that, but it's just not happening. So
Well,
done. Washing my
that
hands of the air.
yeah, that makes sense to me, your description about that too, because you seem like somebody who puts thought and care into a lot of things that you do, like
Yeah.
your clothing.
If I care about you and if I care about
Yeah.
it, then you'll get 110% effort. But
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, you're an NPC to me.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't really. It's not that you don't exist, but it's just that I don't care.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not gonna. I'll put the bare minimal in if I can be bothered with that.
Yeah.
Like,
But even
yeah,
in you,
that's
like your own care for kind of like certain people are like this, like we drink coffee in the United States more than tea, but or something. People can be kind of just like in a rush. It's like whatever coffee and stuff. And then other people like it's like a whole ritual, they like
yeah,
heat the water and pour it gently or whatever. And I think you're kind of like one of these like latter people who have like little kind of rituals for everything where and just kind of nice little things, like, well, we might as well, wear cologne, for instance, like you mentioned, or like always
yeah.
dress
My
up
when
nice.
I get up, yeah, getting up for me is like a ritual. Like I'll have to get up, I'll work out, I'll shave, I'll
Mm,
moisturize, I'll have my suit picked for the day beforehand, unless and like if there's a weather change,
mm,
I'll have to then like pick a backup suit that's maybe a bit lighter. Like today, I was going to wear a corduroy blazer, but it was way too warm for that, so I had
mm-hmm,
to switch the whole outfit and everything. Or like when I do like my bacon, egg, and sausage, there's a whole ritual to that and where things go. But yeah, yeah, mainly for when I'm getting ready for the day, that's very ritualistic.
mm-hmm,
Or like what music I'll listen to or what I'll watch when I work out, and things like that. But yeah, no, if like the mother of my child, when we were together, she always said because she's very honestly, I'd almost categorize her as the what you call the super empath.
mm-hmm,
Um, she always said like when I got my diagnosis, she like started telling me all these like little like things that she thought that she couldn't really tell me before
mm,
because they didn't have enough. It's not that they didn't make sense, but they didn't have enough evidence to back it up.
yeah,
But she always said because she had a daughter from a previous relationship who was like 6 or 7 at the time, and she always said that she said whenever she said I always got it when it was just the two of us or me, you and the kids, like just alone in the house. She never felt like she was in any danger or anything. But she said whenever like we were around other people, she said she always got this like sinking feeling in her gut
mm,
that like there's something like there's a danger in the room present almost.
mm,
And like I said, you mean like a very like a almost predatory vibe? And she said, yeah. She said I used to, like I'd watch you talking to people, and she just knew that like something was a little bit off. But she always said, I knew that she said I always knew that you didn't care about anyone else, and that you're more or less just a facade. But she said I always knew that you cared about me genuinely,
mm,
and like that's true to the point. I said yeah because you were my girlfriend, and now the mother of my child. So naturally, because I care about my son, I have to sort of care for her because he's a big mummy's boy. Do you know what I mean?
uh-huh,
But, yeah, it's just I said to her, I said it's strange how you knew that like there was almost something wrong and not good about me, or that you knew to be careful, but you knew at the same time that you weren't in any sort of danger. And it was because like I genuinely, I cared, and it's like I can care, but at the same time I can just as easily not care. It's
mm,
sort of like with my anger, it's like a light switch.
yeah,
It's voluntary. It's very rare that I'll get set off involuntary by anger now, although that was more or less the case growing up. I was very irritable as a kid, very irritable.
When you say irritable, you mean like somebody could say something just small and you'd get really angry about it, or what do you mean? Or you were just like,
Well, kind of, yeah. Well, I mean, looking back, we talked about this just before, but looking back on my childhood, one of my parents, they had a lot of not like narcissistic tendencies. And I just sort of came to this by accident again, kind of like with the ASPD. But I got recommended like a YouTube video of I think it was a girl talking about her narcissistic mother growing up,
mm,
and like all the things that she was describing was things that this parent of mine did, and I thought, so so I looked into it a bit more, and basically I realized I was like, wow, I was being raised by a narcissist, and the way people describe um, being children and being raised by narcissists was exactly what I went through.
mm,
Just you're walking on eggshells, um, anything, or whether you said it or not, you're accused of things that you didn't do or say, and you know they'll try and gaslight you into thinking that you did say it and stuff like that. And I'm like, I went through all of this,
mm.
and it was just more or less just brushed under the carpet, really. But it's not a trauma that I have to deal with. It's just like, oh, so that's what that was, and then I'm just pretty much. I mean, it's not a good thing. It sounds weird to say, but I'm fine with it. It's like not. It's not something that I need to recover from or go to therapy for.
Mhm.
It's just. It's just. It is what it is, as I say. It's just something that's happened.
Yeah, it is what it is, as you say. I remember. Yeah, I was so I'll give you kind of an example. My narcissistic dad is still alive, and so sometimes I still kind of like, I'm exposed to stories or whatever. He lives like in the same basic kind of place that I do. So he was doing something with my brother. It was something for like a park that they were doing, like new benches or new something. And there was like some question about what the design should be. They're all just doing this volunteer, so that's what makes it kind of funnier. But he like inserted himself in it. My brother was doing it, and then he inserts himself and is like, I'll help, or I'll just go get all the lumber and, like do this or whatever. And then he wanted to do something kind of differently, and then so two opposing decisions or whatever, and then he thought that my mom agreed with my brother, and he started complaining and getting angry and was like, she always sides with her children, she
Yeah,
never sides with me or whatever. And then she told him like, no, I agree with you, but he was still angry. And it was weird because he said that he's like, even though I know that I made a mistake, I'm still angry at her. I'm like, why?
yeah,
Like, but it's like it doesn't kind of matter what actually happened. That's what it reminded me of when you said that this parent gaslights you into thinking that you did say the thing, because once they kind of feel like bad about a situation or something, it does not matter what actually happened. They will
yeah.
keep those feelings.
Well, actually, I mean, that's exactly. I mean, I'm like that sometimes. I don't talk to this parent. Well, I don't talk to either of my parents anymore.
Mm.
Yeah, for multiple reasons, but it's just I'm generally better off without them. You know, I don't miss them, and a lot of people say that's a sad thing. But it's like it's not. I just don't talk to my parents anymore. You know, big whoop.
Uh-huh.
And, it is, but yeah, I realized. I went, you know what? I was like, actually, sometimes like I'll do a lot of the same things,
Mm.
and I've been re-referred back to the I've been referred back to the psychologist for possibly for a diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder
Mm.
as well. And at first, I thought to myself, "Oh, this is a little bit." I thought, what are the odds of having two cluster B disorders? And then looking into it, it's actually the odds are quite high.
Oh,
I thought it
really?
would be, yeah, yeah, or at least he said more or less pretty much everyone with well, anyone with a cluster B disorder will more or less have traits of another,
Yeah.
but it's really not that uncommon to have two cluster B diagnoses, which I didn't even know was possible. And I thought, and yeah, I'll yeah, even though if something like that, like with your dad, starts out with it, oh, you're going against me, and and even though if we sort of get our own way in the end, we're still angry. because we're still on that defensive.
Uh-huh.
And another thing that I've done like in the past was so I was watching the I think he's called the Nameless Narcissist.
Mm.
Do you know the guy with the sunglasses?
Haven't seen it.
Yeah, he's a guy. He's a what you call a content creator
Mm-hmm.
on YouTube, I think. And he was talking about the way that he sees romantic relationships, and it's exactly what I do. We always like I was married like we were married 5 seconds ago in my head
Mm-hmm.
before I even laid my eyes on you, and like I'll take it super seriously. And it's like we're meant to be. It was written in the stars, and then when those expectations come crumbling down, I'll get it is what you call like narcissistic injury. It's just like this. It's an empty, hollow feeling of misery and despair and shame, and it's just it's absolutely it's only ever happened to me in that sort of setting now when I've had a romantic expectation sort of been pulled from underneath my feet.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I'll get narcissistic injury. And it absolutely, and that was the one thing when I got diagnosed with the ASPD. I was thinking, well, well, I do have these weird like moments where I feel shame. I was like, I know I can definitely feel that. And but I sort of, I mean, again, as with anything, you know, it's not affecting me right now, or even if it is, I just sort of don't care and toss it to the side. But it wasn't until after looking into the NPD a bit more that I thought, oh, I was like, so that's what that is. But yeah, we just absolutely build up this. It's, the thing is, with people with just NPD, they build up an image of it because deep down they're ashamed. But I think with a comorbid ASPD or an NPD, it's more just it's like false expectations of oneself. You know, that's the one thing that I can't deal with is like when a big expectation that I have on myself doesn't get met. I'm very
Mm-hmm.
much the kind of person like, you know, if I got 90% on my on a test, you know, why didn't I get 100? Very much a perfectionist. Again, like I spend half my morning or pretty much the whole morning on just like my look for the day, you know, between like working out and the moisturizer and you know the gel and doing my hair. It's just it's all about it's you know, I mean, I'll admit it. It you know, I'm just very like shallow in that way where everything is about appearances and what I can sort of put out there on a false superficial level.
Huh.
And it's been pointed out to me in the past, like my baby's mother said this, but obviously I know better than her, so I've always dismissed it.
Hmm. That's interesting what you say about comorbidity because my girlfriend has often said that she thinks that I have, and my therapist did say that I have like aspects of antisocial personality disorder and then autism spectrum. At the time, he said Asperger's, but that's like no longer. But then he also said a
Yeah,
little bit of obsessive compulsive personality disorder. And she thinks that she has like aspects of narcissism too. And that actually was one of the issues when we were first kind of seeing each other and we didn't have, I've heard it before called define the relationship conversation where you're like, hey, are we monogamous? What is the what is the nature where we're just kind of having fun or whatever and no real conversation. And she, I think, had expectations and in previous relationships that she could do whatever she wanted, but the other person had to be like, only interested in her, no matter what stage of the
yeah.
relationship it was at.
I was kind of like that. I mean, not in terms of like seeing other people, but it is. Yeah, we're very much like we're very much do as I say, not do as I do.
Mm.
And like I remember I was using cocaine when I got together with my baby's mum at first. And she wasn't into any of that, but I was at the time. And she said to me, "Oh, you know, like I've got my little girl in the house. You can't really be doing that
Yeah.
if you're with me. You know, you've." And I said, "Oh, okay, I'll stop doing it." But of course, that was a big fat lie. You know, I was still doing it like nearly every day. And I went out to meet an old mate of mine, and we're doing, we're doing stripes of coke, or just on a day out, and like baby's mum or the girlfriend at the time, she called me in like tears, and she called me in floods of tears, saying, she said the dog's died because she had a dog when we got together, and the dog was like 14 years old. It was on its way out,
Yeah.
which is what I mean, that was my first thought when she was saying, Rocky's dead. And I was like, oh, right, okay. And she was like, oh, I need you to come over now, and I'm upset and all of this. So I said to my mate, I said, oh, I said, I've got to go. I said, the girlfriend's dog's died. And so I was really annoyed. I just didn't want to deal with it. I thought I can't be bothered. But I think it would have been better if I wasn't there. Because it's like, what am I going to do? Am I going to bring the dog back to life? What do you want me to actually like do physically?
Yeah.
But and I went back to the house, and the thing that put me off doing the coke ever again was that when I went in, sometimes it happens. I don't know if you've ever took coke or not, but there's occasionally it's happened to me twice where you get really like sad and low. You get an almost like a depressive state. It's like it works in the opposite way sometimes, and well, that happened when I went in the house because yeah, well, the house was like really like the house was quite dark because like the sun never hit directly, so the house was like always kind of dark, and there was like crying, and it just really affected my mood, and it brought me right down. I was like, I can't do it, and obviously like I've got to act sober as well because she doesn't know that I'm still doing coke behind the back, and absolutely horrible. And I said, "All right, where's the dog?" And or what's happened? And she said, "Oh, I think she said like he let out like his last howl, like a lot of dogs do when they die."
Uh,
I said, "Well, where is he?" And she said, "Oh, he's in the bathroom," and that's where he went. And she put a blanket over the dog, and because of the way like the way the dog was lying down, it's like because the legs stick out, don't they? It's not like a person where we're just like one straight thing. It's like the legs stick right out. And the thing that annoyed me was that like if you wanted to go and like I'd trip every time you want to go to the bathroom, you trip over the dog's legs, and it just like irritate me. And I think the local animal shelter or whoever it is that picks up the dog came and took it, and but she was like morbidly upset for quite a while, and I just didn't really know. I didn't really have a clue how to handle this. I mean, first of all, I was thinking it's a dog. It's a dog. There's plenty of other dogs out there. Get another one. Get another one that even looks like the other dog. I don't care. I didn't even know. I only knew this dog for like 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. And then this dog's died, and now I've got to, I've got to deal with it. That's that was my thought process. But, uh, but yeah, I've got no room for anything like that. And she says, looking back, you weren't really kind of helpful at all.
uh-huh.
But, no, I've always been that way.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, the comorbidity thing is interesting. So I'll give you another example of psychopath. I did watch the YouTube video. I don't know if it's like public or not. It's somebody who contacted me and was like, "Can you watch this?" type thing. And this person's been diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, but they also cut and burn themselves.
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, I've cut myself in the past when I was 16.
Mm,
I did have like a brief because that's the thing with me. With any negative emotion or feeling, it's very strong. It is very potent, but it's very short lived. And so I always know, no matter how, if I ever, on the rare occasion that I do feel down, I always know it's going to be over within, maybe a day or a week at most. So I've done that in the past when I was 16, which was what, 7, 8 years ago.
mm.
But but yeah, I can kind of. Then why? Did they also have depression as well, or
I think their description of it is that they would kind of they felt such inner turmoil because they didn't feel like they could kind of be themselves. They wanted to be, whoever they really were, but they felt like this pressure to conform or to pretend or to be something else. And so that's what I mean, I don't know if this is something like in adulthood now they look back and think this is what's the problem, or if that's how they experienced it at the time. What do you think?
Right, right. Um, I don't know. I mean, I've never cut myself for that reason, so I can't really relate.
Yeah.
But maybe that's like maybe that's, I mean, what that sounds like is like the lack of sense of self is eating away
Yeah.
at the person. Like
Yeah.
it's almost like it's bothering them.
Yeah.
But which, I mean, I make a fascinating study.
Yeah.
But I mean, I put a cigarette out on my arm once for a laugh. I wasn't like sad or anything. I was just drunk, and I'd finished the cigarette, and I remember I was sat down, and I was quite drunk, and I just had this burning cigarette end in one hand, and I looked at my forearm on my left arm, and I don't know why, but I just thought the two would go great together. So, and I laughed the entire time. Like, I just thought it was the funniest thing ever. But
Do you still have a scar?
it does. It got really at first. I used to pour, like, antibacterial hand gel. I
Yeah.
used to have to wash that over it every day because it went all like green and like really infected like
Uh-huh.
straight away. And I was like, oh no. So, but it was, I really, do you know what? I pushed it, like, I pushed the cigarette right down into the arm to where like the black, the ash on it like went like solid, almost
Uh-huh.
like charcoal, like really thick ash, and it stubbed it deep in and twisted it in. But again, in my drunk mind, it was hilarious at the time. It was a laugh. But yeah, the things you do when you've had a few. But it's got a. I don't know if the camera will pick it up. It's like on
Oh,
there.
yeah, I think I saw it, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, and the
But,
other thing that this person did that would seemed like a little unusual to me, now it's just like left my mind. What was the other thing? They would get in fights. I mean, I think this person said like 4 to 6 fights a month, but most of them road rage related. So like somebody would cut him off and then he'd chase him down. He'd like, tear him out of the car and then like beat them up. And he would do this in front of his kids and stuff. And I was like, man, that's like I have gray rage, but I feel like I'm less reactionary than that. I'm curious to hear
yeah,
your
that's
thoughts on
why
that.
I won't. That I'm not learning to drive for that exact reason because it's true. I won't learn to drive for that because I know that that'll just be me. I'll lose the car, I'll lose everything, and I'll just go straight to jail
Uh-huh.
because that's just. I mean, sometimes I get road rage not being a driver. Like, people who just don't use their, I'm trying to cross the road. People don't use their indicators, and it's stuff like that. I get road rage without being in the car. So the last thing I need is to be in that position because I'd just happily ram into the back of someone's car I'd go at it. That's why I
Yeah.
won't learn to drive just purely for that reason.
That's smart. It's good self-awareness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And, I wanted to for years, but I mean, again, when I was 18, 19, all I did was like blow my money on like drugs and tobacco, alcohol, things that just rubbish. Really, I was just terrible with money, which I always have been up until recently. But yeah, no, I won't. For the time being, at least, I won't learn to drive. There is because the GP said to me, you might to get a written diagnosis, you might have to go to therapy. And I said, I'll only go to therapy if I have to do that. But thinking about it in the last, let's say, week or so, uh, the thing with again, going back to having no trust mechanism, I did realize about a week ago, I thought, I'm never going to be with a girl can't, if I didn't even know what trust is.
Yeah.
Well, I know what it is. I know what it looks like to a degree, I think. But to truly have that, I mean, to me, it seems like a weakness. I just think if you're going to truly trust somebody else, that's just, you're just setting yourself up on the chopping board, ready to be diced.
Mm.
To me, anyway, that's my definition. But yeah. So I might go to therapy for just for that. But yeah, I'm not reactionary really, or not as often as I used to be. I can be, but it's more verbal now than physical. More very verbally aggressive. Um, but yeah, absolutely, yeah. I won't be on the roads anytime soon. Don't worry.
Uh-huh. That's interesting what you say about going to therapy to learn trust. I remember one of the first kind of friends that I kept, wasn't just like a weird mirroring back to me type friend like from childhood or whatever, just like a weird kind of play play companion, but also like a play thing is my friend Anne that I talk about in the book. And she was like the person that I think understood that I didn't have like a very good conception of trusting or who to trust or what to trust. And so that was interesting to me that she picked up on that in me. I didn't think of it at all. And that was also
Yeah,
about
yeah.
the same time, my early 20s. And she's like, I don't think that you trust people or whatever. I don't know if I didn't know how to trust or whatever, but it was true what she said that generally I didn't trust people. And and so she kind of just like made that like her little side project, and I think that was helpful. I think once I kind of learned a little bit more, I don't even know, like it was so long ago and she did it so kind of seamlessly that I'm not even sure like what she did, but I do feel like I was better about it. And I felt like I had more options afterwards. And that was nice. It wasn't like I had to trust everybody or something, but I could kind of. I had a little bit more control over the trust thing, and I had more capacity if I chose to do it. And so that kind of felt good, to feel like I wasn't going to be limited. If a good kind of intimate relationship came along, that I would have like a little bit more capacity than I did before.
Wow. I mean, that's more than I can say for me. I've just got a total block to it. It's just I'm not trusting you, and that's it.
Yeah.
But it's not even. I don't even want to go to therapy, to be honest. I really don't want to do it. But that's the one thing I've realized. I'm like, yeah, I'm probably gonna need to be able to trust. But I just have absolutely no trust in it, because yeah, if you lead a whole life where everybody in some capacity or another, whether it's from parents, you know, kids at school, friends at school, people who say that they care about you and stuff like that. If you've got a child who grows up who just constantly let down,
Yeah.
um, you know, bullied mercilessly at school, not really shown any sort of empathy or remorse, then what do you expect that child to grow up to be?
Mm,
Obviously, they'll grow up to be someone like me.
yeah.
Um, you know, I mean, I'm not gonna paint ASPD as like a cutesy, cool, super, superhuman thing, which it can feel like sometimes. But it's not the greatest, and it's like with things like even groups of friends, like the sitcom Friends.
Yes.
I always watch that because like that's so, and even again in real life, like seeing groups of friends talk and like hang out, as you'd say, like in the city centre, and you're just like, I'm watching this and like I'm amazed. It's like, wow, like there's just a group of people just being friends, making all that effort to go out and just be friends for the sake of it. And they trust each other, and like people who lend and borrow money, big no in my books. But and things like that. It's like I love the, like when I'm watching Friends as well. Like I love the mechanics of it and all. It's not that I'm necessarily. It's not that I'm opposed. It's not that I don't believe in friendship. It's not that I don't believe in romantic or love, whatever you want to call it. It's just that I don't believe in the, or it's that I just can't access those things, and I need to find my own way to do that. But in a way that's non-exploitative, and genuine as well. You know, I'm not gonna. I mean, friends. I don't need friends still. I'm not interested in finding friends. At least, you know, not. You know, I'd like to be married. You know, I wanted to be married 15 minutes ago. Was just the expression I use. But you know, I still do want to be married very much. But I'm not going to be somebody who like hides their diagnosis or authentic self from from my girlfriend. You know, I wanted to know what she's dealing with, and I mean, I don't like. I mean, again, I don't really see it. It's more like my cognitive bias versus my ego, where it's like I don't want to believe that I'm a difficult person, but undeniably, I know that I more or less am because I know I've got this disorder with these traits. But you know, I'm not that bad, right? Um, and things like that. But yeah, the mechanics of like even you were describing how somebody in your girlfriend's family had died, and you were going, "Oh, I had to deal with that." But like, was there was there a part of you that wanted to deal with that? Like you wanted to, I don't know, be there for her, or what? I don't know. You explain. What was that like? And
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. And I've been thinking too about something that happened before I even learned to trust. And then I'll get back to the to my girlfriend's family member who died. So in college at BYU, I think even I was like a freshman at the time, and there was one of my classmates. I didn't know her well. I'd only known her for like 4 weeks or 5 weeks or something. She was talking to me, and she was saying that she was going to get kicked out of school because she wasn't able to make the tuition payment, but it's just because her family didn't have the money like at that point. Like they would get the
yeah,
money
oh yeah,
like in 2 weeks or something, but in 2 weeks it would be too late, and so she'd get kicked out of school. And I think she was just telling me, she's like really stressed out by it, but I actually had like a bunch of money. Well, I considered it a bunch of money. It was only like thousands of dollars. That's not like a ton of money. But to me, it was the most money I had had since I was just like this 18-year-old, with $3,000. And I thought the tuition payment was $1,800. I thought, well, I mean, I don't need this money right away. Like I got it as part of I had a great aunt who died, and she had like a trust fund for her relatives to like go on a Mormon mission or go to a Mormon school. So I was going to BYU. And so and so they just gave me, I think it was like $3,000 every semester just for like my room, my board, my books, my whatever. So I had a bunch of money, and then I used it the rest of the semester, but I didn't need all of it that day. And so I told
yeah.
her like, "Oh, I'll pay your tuition payment and you can just pay me back when you get the money from your parents or whatever." And I think like that's kind of a weird thing to have done. Not
That's a big thing to have done. That is, you would never ever you'd never catch me doing anything like that.
I know. And
I'd have just said good luck to you, and that's it.
yeah, and so I've been thinking a little bit about it because did I trust her? And the truth is no. Like because I didn't know her, I didn't trust her, but I think I was just um happy in a way that she had talked to me, because I was like, this is, if what she says is true, and honestly, at a Mormon school, she probably is telling the truth. And that's probably something that like if people know Mormons or whatever, there of course are these, Mormons who don't tell the truth, I'm sure. But for the most part, it seems like out of the general population, they are way more honest uh and kind of trustworthy than non-people. I guess in Las Vegas, a lot of the pit bosses in the casinos are Mormon, and also in the American CIA and FBI, there are a lot of Mormons that are like in these kind of positions of like trust. So yeah, I think I gave it to her mostly for the efficiency, because I was like, well, if she gets kicked out, that's really stupid because she'll still owe money. She'll still have to pay for the dorm room that she's been sleeping in for 4 weeks. It's not like they're going to reimburse her everything. She's still going to have to pay for her flight out and moving out, and then it's just going to be for nothing. and she's already gone to school for like 4 to 6 weeks or something, and the semester's only like however long. She's like already almost halfway there or something. So I was like, this just makes the most sense. And like she did end up paying me back, and it was like it was nothing. But I don't think it was a trust thing so much as it was just I mean, and I've always done stuff like that, oddly, even though I don't trust interpersonal relationships when it comes to money. I guess I've always thought that money is just something that even if I have it in my bank account, it's not really mine. It should just go to the thing that needs it most. And often the thing that it needs it most is me. It's like, to pay for my rent or to pay for my food or whatever. But if somebody else comes along and needs it most, then that is the thing that like it will go to. Like that makes me feel better about money. And I've never had a scarcity feeling about money for whatever reason. Even though as a child, I had like food scarcity, and I still have some food scarcity issues. I think because I naturally understood money in kind of a weird way, and even as a child was kind of like making money in like various ways and being smart about my money. I just thought I can get money, like money is like one of the easier things to get. And so even if she doesn't even if she doesn't pay me back, I'll just get a job, and that didn't bother me. It didn't seem, I didn't have like any sense that the money was mine, and it was more a sense that I was like a steward over the money, and that I should just like put it to wherever it should go. So I've done a couple other things like that, with relatives or whoever else who have like borrowed, $15,000 from me or whatever. And one time my dad it was with my aunt that I lent her 10 or $15,000, and he was like, this is really stupid and stuff. And I just thought, I don't have the same emotional connection to money that you do. And so even if she doesn't pay me anything, I don't care. And I even think the aunt, she told me, she was like, hey, I just heads up, I want to let you know that we're planning on going to Russia to pick up my cousin who was in he was a missionary in Russia. And one of the things that like Mormon parents will do is they'll go out and kind of pick them up, and then they'll go visit the place and meet some of the people that they've been living with, or that they know, and they'll be there for like a couple weeks. Then they'll all fly home together. So they wanted to do that. And she was like, I just want you to know that, we're still going to pay you or something. I don't want you to have hard feelings that we're spending money in this way instead of spending money on paying you back. And I was like, I have zero hard feelings. Like, you don't have to explain how you're spending your money to me. It was my choice to give you, or loan you the money. And I just had no expectations of repayment or whatever. And then, so like a similar thing happened, with this family, with my girlfriend's family, where I like saw a financial need and met it. And these people were kind of like really surprised by it. And I'm a little bit surprised that they were surprised. And I just think it's like different. I don't even know if there's like, the thing that I cared most about was making sure that, because when a death happens, in my mind, there's an immediate cash crunch. It's like, what if they had been working, they're not getting that salary. If they're, I know this from being a lawyer, that if they don't have trust, if they just have a will, then it has to be probated. Everything has to be probated. And so there's no way that you can really get access to cash kind of immediately. And so I thought, oh, there's just going to be a cash crunch in which they're going to need to pay for a bunch of different things, the funeral, the like the what to do with the body, whether it gets
The
buried or
limo,
not.
and yeah.
Yeah, expenses. And if they don't have, even if they do have life insurance, they have to do an autopsy, and the whole thing, it's just going to take a while. And so they just need like a certain amount of cash, and it can't be a small amount. It has to be like a large amount of cash in order for them to kind of feel like they have the liquidity to kind of like get through whatever the situation. So I mostly felt that about it. Like it was just good that I was there. Kind of in the same way, it really paralleled that experience with that girl from BYU, where it was just good that she had talked to me, of all people. Like we were zero friends. We weren't even friends. We didn't end up becoming friends. We were cordial to each other. It's like we were friendly, but we never
Yeah.
hung out. I never had her phone number. Like we were in the same class, and that's how I assumed that she would pay me back. If she ever did pay me back, is she'd see me in class and like give me a check or something. But that, I think, I like get more pleasure from that, I think, than like it's kind of what you said with the or I'll give you another example. Like but it's a little like you said with a dog. Like, what are you supposed to do? You can't make the dog live, and there's nothing that you can do. And I don't like feeling like helpless ever, and especially in a situation where there's like nothing you can do because you can't resurrect the dog and you can't resurrect the family member and you can't do these different things. I always try to look for things that you can do. So in again, like my church, you get assigned different people to kind of watch over, like it's called a ministering assignment. So I have these like two or three women, it changes like maybe every 6 months or something. One of them ended up having a baby, and so one of the things that the church often does for these types of situations is these um we provide meals for like a week or two. If somebody has surgery or if they have a baby or something, it's just to kind of take one less, have have them have one less thing on their plate, I guess, is that they can just have dinner. Somebody's gonna like drop off dinner to them. So I
Yeah,
had
looking
already
after them,
hmm?
like looking after them, sort of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, to look after
Yeah,
them. So I had already kind of like we had scheduled like everybody to do these weekly things. I had taken whatever it was Saturday night. The person who was supposed to drop off that meal that day called me and said, "Hey, can you do it instead? I'm super sick. I can't, do anything." So I said, "Oh, okay." I was going to drop off some like diapers and stuff from them. Do you know Costco, the store?
yeah.
It's like a big bulk store or whatever. Like that's the cheapest place to get diapers.
All right. Okay.
So I was already going to go to Costco to get her diapers. So I asked her too, like, hey, do you need anything else? And so I got her a bunch of stuff from Costco, diapers and wipes and formula and like all these other kind of baby type stuff. And then I like got her a bunch of stuff from like foods from Costco, like ribs or whatever that like come pre-cooked, and like dropped it all off. It was like maybe like $150 worth of stuff or something. And she was like, thank you so much. And, like, can I pay you back anything? And I said, like, no, I'm just happy to have finally something concrete to do. Like otherwise, normally it's kind of like if everybody's just living their life, what does it mean to have these ministering people? Do you send them a text every day, a text every week, being like, just thinking of you?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
what
It's a good
actually
boredom break. Yeah,
matters?
yeah, exactly. It's a good little boredom breaker as well. I call it like a little mission. We're like, oh, I've got
Mm-hmm.
a little mission to do. But I mainly have those like about like seeing my son and things like that. But yeah, that's nice. You know, funnily enough, I spoke to two Mormon missionaries. They were in the town centre, by where I live, and I just got speaking to them, and we were talking about Christ and then the gospel, and they were asking me about myself, and I told them about how shortly after I started truly believing in God, that a couple of weird little things started to happen in my life with certain people, and it wasn't that those kind of situations hadn't happened before, but I was starting to have like more self-aware thoughts. It was like my mind was waking up,
Mm.
like there was a weird little awakening going on, and I was like, oh, I was like, why am I like? I remember I met a woman shortly after coming to my faith, and she was telling me about she was telling me she was recalling to me this experience of how she was like she said she was homeless, and at one point the night before some man had attempted to rape her
Mm.
in a park where she was sleeping, and you know, a few weeks before that, I would have, you could have told me that, and I'd just go, oh yeah, that's not good, and or something. And but after coming to my faith, this thought entered my mind, and I went, I think I should be feeling something when this person's telling me this, but I know I don't. And it was things like it's like the beast is like slowly starting to, or like the mind is discovering itself, and there was a few things like that, and I told them, I gave them like I ended up giving them like a brief little testimony, and they
Nice.
were both like, wow, like that's so great, and and like it was just me, like I was just telling them about like things that had happened and what led to being diagnosed and where I am now. There is a Mormon church it's not in the town where I live. It's a bit outside of town, and I'd have to get up quite early. I still don't know exactly how to get there, but I haven't got it on me. It's over there, but he gave me like a little business card. It's got a picture of Christ with a Saint Paul
Mm.
next to him, and Christ getting ready to go up on the cross. And on the back, he wrote the address of the church and the time the service started. I've still got it, and I'd like to go just to see how their service compares to the services that I go to now.
Hmm.
But well, yeah, that's it. Was just that they are, for the most part, Mormons are great. I thought to myself, do you know what I thought? I thought if everybody in the world was like a Mormon, there wouldn't really be a lot of problems with that, or they'd be very trivial at least.
Yeah. I mean, there's still bad things that happen. Like I
Yeah,
actually,
no
yeah,
one's
yeah, yeah,
perfect.
yeah,
No one's perfect, but tell you what, damn well near it. Damn well near it.
yeah. Yeah, but it's I think too, I'll tell you another kind of story about like going and being around my girlfriend's family is that she lives in a different part of the country, and it's more politically divided there than it is where I live. Where I live is like, I mean, we rarely hear about politics or whatever because where I live is really chill anyways. It's like nobody
Is
kind
it
of
very so? Is where you live? Is it more Republican or more Democrat, or is it
so
an even mix?
so I would say that my like city, my area, kind of general like bigger city metropolitan area is conservative, but they're not crazy conservative, and the state is very liberal. And so in some ways it's just like a nice blend. It's like
Yeah, people couldn't get along because do you know what I mean? I'm on the politically, I'm what you'd call I'm on the centre right
mhm.
of the political spectrum. But one of in fact, two I think come to mind now. Two of the best people who I ever worked with in this old factory job I had a few years ago. They were very like they weren't extreme left wing, they weren't communist or like neo Marxist by any means, but they were just like socialist,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
we could always like have stabs at each other and agree to disagree, and like that's a really rare thing to find, anywhere these days, because yeah, everywhere is so politically divided.
Yeah. Yeah. So amongst one of the people, like that's kind of part of the family, it's like somebody who's like dating or whatever, it had like this like bumper sticker that offended me. And the reason why it offended me is because it said something like proud to be everything that liberals hate. And I thought, well, I'm libertarian, I'm not liberal, but sometimes I vote liberal. As a libertarian, it's kind of like you have to pick and choose. There aren't often
Yeah,
libertarian
what
candidates.
oh, who's saying what at this moment in
Yeah,
time? And yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And so I was like, well, I is he trying to tell me that everything that he is something that I hate, because that offends me a little bit to have somebody tell me about myself. It like hurts my sense of self. And so I was like, I told my girlfriend, I was like, I'm going to ask him what he means by that, because for instance, the guy, he served for instance in the military, and I totally respect that. I think that's a great thing. Like thank you for his service, and that's awesome that he did that, and it's a very good thing that he did. And so it's kind of weird to say like proud to be everything that liberals hate, because it's almost like you're saying liberals hate the military service. Liberals hate, being a good dad, like all these things that I do admire about the person. And so I was like, I'm going to ask him about this. And then my girlfriend was like, you can't ask him about it. It's like a funeral service or something. And like we can't even like risk the possibility that there could be any sort of political division happening. And so we kind of got into this fight because I was like, I used to mask, and I used to pretend, and I used to even like censor myself uh to get along, and I don't do that anymore. I feel like I'm almost like a recovered alcoholic that won't even drink champagne at a wedding, where it's like I don't care if it's a wedding. I don't care if it's
yeah,
the toast. Like I refuse to have to pretend to anybody
yeah,
anymore.
yeah. Well, yeah, that's where sort of like where I've hit now, but I've hit
Mm,
it really early on in my life. It's where I'm
yeah.
doing me.
And good for
I'm
you. That's great that you hit
yeah,
it so early in your life.
Yeah, it's exhausting. I mean, personally, me, if I was in your shoes and I saw, like, if that was me and I saw somebody with a little flag in the window or a bumper sticker on the car saying, "Oh, I'm everything that conservatives or traditionalists hate," I'd just go, "Good for you, good for you," because I don't know you, I don't care about you. Chances are I'm never going to do either. I
Yeah.
don't care. Good,
Yeah.
knock
You know,
yourself out.
and I'm not either ashamed, and often I do see stuff like that. I see like whatever stickers that I disagree with. This one, it wasn't so much their politics, it was that I felt like they were trying to tell me who I am and what my beliefs are. And
Yeah,
obviously it's just a
yeah,
bumper sticker, but I do think it was meant to kind of provoke. And I was like, this is kind of what you get for putting provocative bumper stickers. But like,
yeah. Well, naturally, yeah,
yeah, so I didn't end up confronting the dude about it or anything. I just kind of avoided him, and it wasn't because though I didn't want to self-censor. I didn't feel like I was self-censoring. I mostly just told my girlfriend like, "Hey, this has frustrated me. This has triggered me emotionally and psychologically. My identity feels triggered by this bumper sticker for whatever reason. Maybe it's just because I was surprised or maybe it's because I was like we took a red eye to get out there and I had not been sleeping, whatever. There were like a lot of factors. It was like stressful to why I was triggered by it. But I just thought, and she was kind of like, at funerals, we just have to kind of do whatever. And I thought there should never be a time in which we just have to do whatever. I mean, there should always be a choice or something. And if I want the consequences, okay. And then she was kind of like, um, that was hard for her to kind of deal with. And I think in some ways it was because she's kind of used to avoiding, like, in her family, the political division. Like her family's like split in the middle, basically about politics, and arguments have arisen before from politics that have gotten really ugly. And so I think she's just been
yeah,
trained to never ever mention it and talk about it. And I do know, okay, polite society or whatever, don't talk about, what is it, religion and politics. So it's
yeah,
it's
yeah,
not like I was going to go ham. It's not like I'm like, you can't bring me to any social function because you can't trust that I'm not going to just, like, call people fat or ugly or whatever. Like, I still have like this sense of decorum or whatever, but I also thought I'm not going to be afraid. Like, if I feel it like it's a right thing to do, I'm not going to be afraid or go into this thinking like the one thing I can't do is mention his bumper sticker. That's the thing that I absolutely didn't want to do, because I think it hurts my sense of self to put those sorts of constraints on me, and to say, and especially to kind of prejudge a situation and be like, this is how it has to go. It has to go like this, and I have to fit whatever criteria or whatever to ensure that this is how it goes, because that's such like an outcome oriented perspective, and it feels like mutilating myself. It feels like when I do stuff like that, like I'm cutting myself or something, and for what? So for what
you
is
should just
anything
have
worth
that. You
it?
should have the choice, and if you
Yeah, the
choose to bear
choice.
the consequences, so
Exactly.
be it. Yeah,
And I can have the consequences too. It's not like I'm saying like, if like it turns into like a bad thing and her family hates me, that's fine. But I should have like that ability, like that freedom. It's when I feel like people are trying to constrain that choice or something, where I really feel like it's like, for,
yeah. You must do this. You cookie cut. You must be cookie cutter version.
yeah.
Blah blah blah. Yeah, no, I agree. But now, yeah, when it comes to politics, I'm not really. I mean, like, I'm interested in certain bits of political history and stuff like that, but I'm
Mm,
not really like I used to be very, I guess, politically charged
mm,
is the expression. I was very like much into politics, but now it's like, yeah, like I have opinions X, Y, Z, whatever. But it's not that I don't care. It's just that I don't really think about I don't think about it too much
mm, yeah.
really anymore. But I can get on with anyone. I mean, as long as you're not, I mean, again, as long as you're not like a far right extremist or a far left extremist or any sort of radical
Yeah.
where no one else's opinion is allowed.
Yes,
As
exactly.
long as you're all for sharing opinions, then all right, fine. I'll share mine, and that's that.
Yeah.
But I'm a lot more easygoing now, yeah. But
Yeah.
anyone who's too politically charged, I think they're more concerned with winning the debate
Mm.
than actually like having a what you call like a pursuit of truth.
Yes.
If you get what I mean, like
Yeah, I do
they'd
actually.
much rather just win the argument
Yes.
than than actually learn something.
Yeah. And it's an interesting thing too because I think on the macro and micro level this is true that there are some people who are just more concerned like in interpersonal relationships, a friend or family member, they're more concerned about winning, being right than they are about like actually improving something or resolving the situation. Like things are things are complicated and people who are less, like there will be conflict. I like this quote that conflict is unavoidable, but contention is a choice. And I totally agree with that. Like when people choose to escalate conflict and make it even worse by kind of calling people names and
Yeah, poking the fire, ad hominems,
yeah,
all of that. Yeah, yeah,
exactly. Because
yeah.
I mean
No,
conflict
conflict
really
is a
is
part of life.
unavoidable. It's like, can we avoid conflict? I don't think that we can, but we can make it worse. We certainly can make it worse.
No, absolutely. I'll always try because I'm not because again, it's like I don't really like. Why would I want to escalate the conflict, whatever it is? I mean, I try and stay out of conflict as much as possible because frankly, I just don't care to get involved with it. I'd much rather live in any as easy a life as possible, but with minimal conflict because it's not that I have a fear of it. I mean, again, I was like severely bullied badly as a child. I've had my fair share of conflict, more than enough. It's not a fear, but it's definitely just a wanting. It's just like why would I go for the conflict when I can just, I can have a good time and be better, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I guess I don't get a pleasure in the conflict. Like I have a family member who is far left, and she talks about how there's going to be a bloody revolution and stuff. And I'm like, you have a child, my nephew, do you want that for your son, this bloody revolution to happen? Like, why? Is it just to be like there's almost something about I often think that for people who want to have, like the extremists who want there to be some sort of revolution, that it's more about them being in charge or their side being in charge than it is about actually accomplishing,
yeah.
whatever kind of ideals they have about it.
It's because there's an element, especially, not just for the the same goes for the far right counterparts as well, but they have their own distorted version of like their own virtue.
Mm-hmm.
They want to put on the cape and be the hero, and bloody revolution and save the world and change the world and all of that. But yeah, it's just a lot of it's false virtue attached to it,
Mm,
and that's a very difficult thing to let go of. So it's not surprising when people when they buy into that and they cling to it.
yeah.
But that's the way that I'd look at it. But yeah, absolutely, it's a very we see it everywhere now. I mean, like the far left, you know, it's more prevalent now than it's ever been.
Mm,
Really, with like radical LGBT. I can't even begin to say the full
mm-hmm.
acronym. I think is the right term.
Mm,
Um,
I think so.
yeah, not the LGBTQIA XYZ
Uh-huh.
community.
Plus.
But it's like now it's just like now like when I was a kid, you didn't really hear about any of that. I mean, you knew that, like, obviously, like, you knew, like, gay people existed, and, whether, some people agreed with it or some people didn't, everyone was just allowed to have an opinion and live and let live, and people with different opinions could converse and engage in civil discourse. But
Hmm.
it now it's just gotten to a point where you can't, and if one side disagrees with the other, you get called a transphobe or a bigot or whatever. It's just people throwing labels and ad hominems nowadays. You don't really see much intelligent political discussion anymore over anything.
Yeah.
And
So I read a tweet that was talking about some new research. They took 10 of the some controversial statements, like in social science, something like uh, that race, like differences in academic achievement in races is at least partially due to genetics and not entirely due to circumstances, environment, stuff like that.
right,
So
right, okay,
like connection between race and IQ and like gender and like all these different kind of controversial things where normally in social sciences we'll just look at the data. We'll just take the data and kind of run it through the statistical analyses, which are, aren't perfect and they're flawed or whatever, but normally we'll just kind of present whatever the data is. But they said for these like controversial topics, did the social researchers, so psychologists, sociologists, anthropologists, whoever else, are maybe kind of doing research in these areas, are they self-censoring? Like, are they unwilling to say certain things that the data
do they
does
have their
support?
own bias? Yeah,
Yeah. And
that's the thing.
yeah, and they say that they do censor, and the reason why is that there's a very small percentage of especially female and especially, but also young male researchers, like professors or academics in these fields, that if you do say something like there's, something, and even if the data says it, if you say something like there is a genetic component to the racial disparity and academic achievement, right? That people will be like, that's totally racist and you're just a bigot, and that these younger people will attack them. And so you're not allowed to say certain things, even if the data suggests that, because
Yeah, you
there's,
can't say what you see anymore.
yeah, you
You
can't
got
say
you
what you
can't
see. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't say what you see
And I'm
anymore.
kind of like, if you want to attack what the person has said, and redo the data or something, or show how the data is wrong, but it's not that. It's like you cannot say even certain conclusions. There's an assumption that anything that, says, for instance, one of these controversial things is biased. It comes from a place of bias, and uh yeah, so even if the strongest data comes out and supports these things, that you definitely can't say it. And that disturbs me as somebody who just thinks, we can just look at the truth, like, this world type thing, like this world, this world has some crazy things, but if we don't see it for how it is, if we refuse to see it for how it is and we try to superimpose our own vision on it, it's worse. For the same reason that it's worse at the micro level, for me to try to superimpose, a particular way of being on myself, and mutilating myself and not really grasping with reality, but instead like living in like a pseudo fantasy of my own construction. Like eventually the truth will out about these different things, either a personal or a societal level. And so I just think let's just see the truth for what it is, and we don't have to spin it and we don't have to like
Yeah,
necessarily even act on it, act any differently on it and stuff. But people don't even want to have those sorts of conversations anymore. Some people, but it's like a vocal minority who are willing to punish people for, even talking about certain things like this that are controversial.
for the majority, yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. It is as well because the vast majority of people that, who in the real outside life, that they're not these radical, you know, LGBT and oh, you can't say that this woman is a man or whatever. But it's just more on a it's it's more on the level of it's like the media. Well, the media enforces it, and then
Mm-hmm.
so it's like the public as a whole as a collective has got to buy it. And yet again, like the slightest thing that you say that's wrong, or maybe that even is maybe it's not even something that you say that's particularly politically incorrect, but somebody takes a snippet of what you said and they take it out of context, um, and then it's like that. People who excuse me lose their jobs over stuff like this now, and then that's gotten to the point. That the more that like communism, or what I like to call cultural communism, where it's less about economics and more about like social politics.
Mm.
But it's just the more that this increases in popularity, the more that we see that these things, like you're talking about, the minority just making the majority not want to really speak. But
Uh-huh.
and I'll talk to again. I'm not interested in having a verbal with everyone I meet. Like I was shopping. I think I needed trousers that day, and so I went out to the city centre, bought the pairs of trousers that I needed, found them just fine. And I was walking back, and there were these. There was like a small like group of like vegan activists.
Mhm.
um, I think they were like vegans, but they weren't like specifically doing activism work as if to say like, oh, they'll be vegan. But they had these TVs like set up, and it was like they were stood in almost like a cube, and each person like a TV on their chest, and it was showing like these videos of like animals, where the conditions where they're ready to be killed, and like cows with the shot put thing through the head,
Mm.
and all of that stuff. And I was watching it, and it was just like, I mean, it's going to sound kind of, it wasn't a cruel or sadistic thing, but it was just generally interesting to watch. And it was just like, because it's like, oh, well, I didn't expect to see this today when I was out shopping. So I was just stood there watching it. And this guy who was like, clearly he was a biological male, and he was wearing a dress, and he asked me, he said, pretty powerful stuff, isn't it? And I said, I mean, yeah, it's to some people, I guess. And he went, oh, he said, does this not really affect you, like seeing like animals like this? And I said, no, it doesn't, mate, to be honest. I said, it doesn't affect me seeing people getting treated like this. So no, never mind animals. Do you know what I mean? And, he like looked kind of like weirded out, and like, oh, this guy's not right. And I said, I held my hand out and I introduced myself to him. I said, hi. I said, my name's Dorian. And he said to me, he said, oh, I'm Jessica. Now, obviously, I know, his parents didn't give birth to him and call him Jeff. I know that's the name he's picked,
Mhm.
but that's I mean, obviously, I don't agree with it, but that's his choice.
Yeah.
That's what he was. I'm not going to stand there and have a thing going, oh, what's your real name? And you know what I mean? I just call it, it sounds mad, but I just, I just had a conversation with him about, or her, or whatever. But we were completely, I said to him as well. I said, oh, I'm very. He was asking me about my political opinions. I said, because I eat meat, and said I'm a meat eater. I'd never consider going vegan or even vegetarian or anything like that.
Mhm.
I like my meat. I'm sticking to it. Bacon, eggs, and sausages for this guy, and he said to me, so we got talking about politics, and I said, oh, well, I'm very, I said I'm more on the centre right of the spectrum, and he didn't accuse me of being of being a racist or a bigot or a homophobe or X Y Z whatever slur you want to throw out, and he wasn't like again, he wasn't a communist or he wasn't a Marxist or some radical bloody revolutionist, whatever you want to call them. He was just he was a guy with a different opinion, and it's like, can't you just just can't that just be it?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
can't that just be it? Like, if people got to care so much and get so invested in each other,
Yeah, invested in
uh,
each other. It's like you can
well,
have
not even, you know what?
100% latitude over your own self and let me have that for my own self. I agree. It's like, why do you care
Yeah,
so much about what I'm doing?
Yeah, and he knew very, he obviously he'll have known very clearly, oh, this guy doesn't see me as a girl or as I want to be seen.
Hmm.
But it wasn't like he started, you know, kicking off at me
Hmm.
again, or calling me slurs or anything like that. It was just two, it's just two people having a conversation about. So it was like to do with animal cruelty and meat factories uh, and it was videos like that, and he was telling me about. I think he told me a couple of statistics. I can't remember what they were. This was months ago. But I do remember him very well. I just remember walking away from it thinking, oh wow, like two people with a different opinion just had a civil conversation.
Nice.
It's just not a. It's unfortunately it's a rare thing these days. But and a lot of people as well, they fall into that trap of because now again politics, especially like in America where you live, it's so tribal. It's almost like people. I mean, in my view, people almost use it sometimes as like a personality,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like, oh well, she has all the same opinions as me, so I know I can trust her, and oh, if you don't have the same opinions as me, then you must be bad. It's like, well, no, that's not what really makes good and some badness is a choice.
Yeah.
And
And the thing that disturbs me about that sort of tribal mentality is that it's like they have a different set of standards for the people within the tribe than the people without. So,
yeah, it's like sub hierarchical almost. It's like very
yeah.
hierarchical even. It's just
Well, and they'll even protect people. So, for instance, like there have been tons of American politicians, like recently Trump got convicted of felonies, right? But
yeah,
before that, tons of politicians who have either been accused or even convicted of crimes, and both parties, it's happened with both parties where they'll be like, well, like Ted Kennedy killed that woman, you know like that's a very famous example or whatever, but it's like people will justify stuff from their own kind of group that they won't behavior that they will punish, and if somebody's outside the group. And I see this too, like with Mormons sometimes, where it's like, well, that person's Mormon, so we're gonna give them a pass or something, and it's like just punish them, just say that they did a wrong thing. But it is kind of weird because they're like, oh no, that person's just like me or something. And so if they did do that, that's a mistake. But if somebody else does it, it's, because they're evil or
yeah.
whatever.
It's very much that like that one of us mentality.
And it freaks me out because I'm like, like as the out group, personality disordered people in general, I think are kind of like looked down upon. And if we do things, then it's like freakish and we're the problem in the society, and society can never be good unless it's rid of people like us. And I'm like, you
Yeah,
guys are doing the same thing for maybe different reasons or whatever, and in ways that you find justifiable for whatever reason. Like you're not
yeah,
willing to just punish
exactly.
people
Again,
equally.
like again, going back to like being bullied at school. Like I was severely bullied inside and outside of school. We had. I remember one time our house. I think it was being pelted with. It was either stones or eggs or both. But I ended up running out with a hammer, and it was about five or six lads, all in like balaclavas and hoods, tracksuits, what have you. And I ended up running out with a hammer and scaring them off.
Uh-huh.
Now, you know, it's like those kids are probably on personality disorder. They're just kids choosing to be or antisocial
Yeah.
personality disorder, but they're just kids that are choosing to be horrible for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like exactly doing it's like aggressive and mean behaviors. But yeah, I've seen that. I've noticed that quite a few times. And people again, it's what I said to you. Typical neurotypical hypocrisy.
Yeah.
It's like you do the same things as us. Maybe not as often, but there's but still, people are a lot, or some people, excuse me again, at least some people are a lot similar to sociopaths, psychopaths than they'd like to admit. I
Yeah.
think, and, yeah, definitely. No, you're right.
And the thing, like the difference between me and them is I don't try to justify it. I just like I'm like, yeah, put the handcuffs on me. Like I'm ready, take
Yeah,
me or whatever. whatever the thing is. I'm like, okay, I'll take my lumps. Yeah, because you're right. I did break a rule or something. I may try to evade detection
Yeah,
but by lying or whatever. But once I'm caught, it's like I don't I don't try to say what I did was not a wrong thing, or whatever. I just like, yeah, you're right, that was a wrong thing. I broke the rule. And the thing with the you know some of these neurotypicals is that they try to justify such disgusting behavior. I think I've mentioned this before, but one time I asked my mom, like, why did during her generation, she's a baby boomer, why did they people not only not report child molesters, to the cops, they weren't prosecuted or whatever, but they actively protected them. They enabled them. I was like, such a disgusting thing that everybody agrees is like terrible, to sexually molest children. Like people were just kind of unwilling to like turn these people in. And my mom said it was because she, first of all, she admits that that's what happened, that the general vibe was we don't turn in child molesters. And she said that they thought that maybe it was because child molestation or the child molesters were so common in society that if you tried to root out every single one of them, then like the very fabric of society would unravel. It'd be your dentist, it'd be the police chief, it'd be like all these different people. And then society would collapse because there would just be such little trust, because you'd realize every single person, if you like prosecuted every single one, you'd realize that everybody, or such a significant percentage of society was doing this. And so they just never did it. And partly I can kind of understand in the Cold War, there was a vibe, I think, where it was like the West has to be like morally superior to the Soviet bloc. And so maybe they that was played a role too. Like we can't have like bad press. We're like playing this like
yeah,
Cold War where we're trying to, like keep people thinking that we're the good guys and they're the bad guys. And if it turns out that we're just like molesting children all the time, then that looks bad. But it really seems like such a weird thing to me that normal people uh, tolerate this type of behavior and people that they think are kind of in the in group and even enable it.
yeah. That's it's, you see again, like with me personally, like I think even like if I walked in a room and I just saw that going on,
Yeah.
I think I'd be going down on a murder charge
Yeah.
instantly. Uh, but yeah, that's always one thing. Funnily enough, I was watching like it was like a text to speech Reddit video, people talking about like how they, I think it was the question posed in the thread was how did you find out your family member was an offender and how did you react? And like I noticed in a lot of the stories, it was like, oh, like I found out that my dad was an offender when I was like only 19, and he'd been abusing my sister since he was like since I was 12. And but in a lot of the stories, there was like an instance more often than not of like, oh, but my mum knew, or my auntie knew, and they just let it happen. And I'm like, how did they not like run in there with a flaming pitchfork and like just end them?
Yeah.
And because especially being a dad myself now, it was very weird becoming a dad because I'm super. It's like I've got this little guy, and he looks exactly like me as well. And I've got this like little mini me, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm super protective and vigilant of him. Like I would even let him, like I say to his mother, when we were finding like a nursery for him to be in, I said if he's going to go to a nursery, there's no male nurses working there. I said
Mm-hmm.
it's got to be all women. I said it should be women looking after the kids for a reason.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And and that's it. It's just again the mentality of like because you've seen it with your own eyes.
Mm.
So how do you again? How do you justify that? I mean, even for me, like I can rationalize. I've done that loads of times where I've been caught doing something bad, and like or like a best friend in the past, or like my baby's mum has gone, oh, like, well, you're doing that, and like I can rationalize, I can talk anything away, and
Mm-hmm.
that's just the sociopathy, the psychopathy doing its job. But like there's things like that that are like just a no go zone. that that normal people, I use that phrase very loosely, will just turn a blind eye to, that I wouldn't, that I absolutely would not.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that about the Reddit video because like I have recently found out too that some family member like not alive, deceased or whatever, was also like a perpetrator and I just think like what? Because and same thing that there was another family member who kind of knew about it and in fact enabled it. And I'm like, what is going on with you guys? What- like what is your thinking about this? Like what is you guys are like so white knuckled maybe trying to, act normal at funerals or whatever else it is that is so important to you that you'll do all, like everybody has to like present like as a normie and conform and then behind closed doors you're like molesting children or whatever. It's hard not to think that that's what's happening with these
Yeah, yeah,
people.
yeah.
It's disgusting
I
to me.
couldn't even begin to, because normally, I mean, I'm pretty good at getting inside other people's thought processes. Like one thing, as a teenager, and even recently, because sometimes, oddly enough, working out to like documentaries about like serial killers is really
Hmm.
good workout fuel for me. And I even used them to go to sleep. Sometimes like they're just really relaxing. I can't listen to whale noises, but in all these like growing up watching serial killer documentaries, there's always these like big psychologists that have been studying for years, and some of the smartest people ever. And in all these documentaries, they go, "Oh, we don't know why he cut up all those women, and why did he do it, and why did he kill?" And me being sat here, I'm like, because he wanted to. It's all. I mean, in regards to the serial murder aspect, it's like people look too much into it. They're like, oh, why did he want to kill him? Like, well, yeah, why do you want to watch a movie, or why do you want to play Xbox, or why do you want to do a podcast? Because that's what you like to do. That's
Uh-huh.
just what it just happened that somebody else, killing was their thing. And
Yep.
it's like that's almost hard for like other people to understand. What with me, because we have that that, I mean, I described it before on here as almost like being sat on a bus, and you're looking at, it's like everybody else's, it's like you're on the bus on your own, and everybody else in life is on the other side of they're like not on the bus, they're outside, and there's a pane of glass between you. And that's what it's like with everyone I see ever. It's sort of like how I speak to you now, like on a screen. It's like you're an NPC. Like you're
Uh-huh.
not, like you're there, I can see you, but you're not there. And if you've got that disconnect to humanity, combined with a lack of remorse, or no shame about doing it, then is it a surprise that you're gonna like to do that? Then it's like, well, no,
Yeah.
shouldn't be a shock. But yeah, coming back to what we were saying about the point of view of like people who try and act high and mighty, but the people who could try and justify seeing and knowing a child's being abused, like even I can't get into that.
Yep.
That's how bizarre it is. Just for context, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But the weird thing about it is, especially in this family situation, like it totally, and they were Mormon too, like Mormon family members, and I'm like sickened about that too, uh, because they were like really considered, just like, oh yeah, these good Mormons that are going to like heaven
Together
or
with the
something,
community.
and they're abusing children, and I think is it just for the external appearances? Is it just for you don't want the bad press, of like you find out this is happening in your family or your neighborhood or your church or something, and you just don't want the bad press for people to find out that this is happening. It's just a really weird thing. I don't know. We've talked
Yeah.
about so many things. There's actually been like cool little themes that I've noticed maybe kind of going through this or something. It's always super interesting to talk to you. I think it's funny
Thank
to
you.
hear this that you consider me an NPC in that there's just like a window or something.
It's
Uh,
not just you.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah. Of
everyone.
course.
It's like even see, I still find it hard to justify how I see my son because it's like he's very like I'm not emotionally bonded to him at all, which is something that I do think about because I want him to develop properly.
Yeah.
And like his mum, because his mum knows about my diagnosis. She said she when I told her the first time I suspected it, she said, "Oh yeah, it doesn't shock me one bit."
Mhm.
And but he's like it's like I'm not emotionally bonded to him at all, but like I genuinely care about him like more than life itself. Like he's gotta he's always got to be dressed smart, look good. It's just been his birthday. He's got all those cool toys and games that he loves,
Mhm.
and he's like we have like play fights and like I tickle him and I've taught him a little act that I showed his mum. It's like I've taught him how to like hit me, like with his little flat hand, and he hits me, and then like I'll fly back dramatically as if he's like really like stuff like that, and it's funny. But then
Mhm.
at the same time, if I wanted to start a new life and move to Argentina or America or wherever the heck it is I want to go,
Mhm.
I wouldn't feel bad about abandoning him at all. But and then people will contact, they go, "Oh, well, you clearly don't care about him." They're like, "No, like I do. Like I know that I do, but there's just not that emotional
Mhm.
uh, link connection. It's like like I mean, first of all, he's a male that looks like me. I think that plays a key role. And I said to his mother the other day, I said, if he was a girl, I probably wouldn't have anything to do with him because I just wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't be able to relate, or it almost wouldn't feel like he's my child,
Mhm.
if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah.
But he is like a little mini me. Sure, he says she's like you couldn't deny that he was yours because
Mhm.
he looks like even when he was like a newborn baby, he looks exactly how I looked when I was newborn.
Uh-huh.
But, yeah, he's the bee's knees.
I love this. This is interesting. It'll be interesting to catch up with you and see what happens with the narcissism
Yeah,
diagnosis.
I rang up. See, the first time I got diagnosed quite quickly for the
Mhm.
ASPD, and that was only because I got fast track referred because for some bizarre reason, I don't know exactly why, but for some reason my GP thought that as well. He didn't. It was not that he didn't think that I had ASPD, but he also thought that there was a psychosis element.
Mhm.
He thought that I was like basically He thought that I was a psychotic psychopath, and so I
Double
got called
psycho.
like yeah, exactly, a double whammy, and
Uh-huh.
so I got called from the hospital the next day after seeing the GP, which like doesn't happen unless you're like this close to being nutted off. But so that's the only reason I got seen quickly. But now because there's none of that suspicion and it's just for narcissistic personality disorder suspected. Um, he's it's going to be probably 2 or 3 months until I first get seen. So it's going to be a long way to me. I'm still doing my research. I'm doing the same thing I did with the ASPD, just research, research, research. I've got a DSM-5 with me this time, which helps. I do meet. I showed my baby's mother the traits, and I said I know for a fact I meet diagnostic criteria for this. And I showed her, and she said yes. She went, "This is you," and she was like, again, like with the ASPD, she's like telling me like she's like, "Oh, you always do this and you always do that, and oh, this is how you are whenever this happens," and all of that other stuff. And but yeah, so we'll catch up on that. I'll keep you updated on the Discord on the messenger.
Love it.
Yeah, there's been a lot of themes. We've had romance, politics, fashion, I think.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm not remembering that right. I'm sure we mentioned clothes at some point. Veganism. We've had the whole shebang.
Yeah. And even before the narcissism diagnosis, though, if something else pops up, you want to come back and chat, it's always a pleasure chatting with you.
Thanks very much. Oh yeah, do you know what? I knew I was forgetting something. I just want to say thanks to the audience as well. Because right before we do one of these, I check the comments just to see, what's been going on. I've had, it's been very 50-50. I'll be honest. Some people love, I mean, I've always been like this. Some people like you're like, oh, it's super interesting, love to talk to you. Some people absolutely despise me. I mean, again, I'm not really bothered because these aren't really people to me. But yeah, so all the people have been saying they've been wanting me back on. Thank you for that. That's always appreciated in the highest regard. Um, to the people who hate me, keep watching or not watch. Do something with your life. I don't care. Do you know what I mean? There's one person who thinks that you pay me to do these,
Mm.
but I mean, I don't know how much, but apparently I'm paid to come on
Mhm.
here by
Mhm.
by you. If only this paid the bills, but it doesn't, folks.
Uh-huh.
Doesn't. I'm not in this for the money.
If we ever meet in person, I'll pay you. I'll buy dinner or something.
You know what? Right before we go again, but weirdly enough, I've thought about this before, either coming to America or you coming to England. But
Mhm.
definitely that would be great if, if
Yeah.
if you want to do that. We'll do that. But
Yeah.
oh, God bless, and till next time.
Till next time. Sounds good. Chat you later.
Bye.